If you're building out your personal brand, it's not just about your business anymore, right? It's about you and who you are. Because I feel like the more that you dig into those things, it really creates like everything. It helps you get in that flow and make you feel better about like everything that you're doing.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a special guest that I met at a mastermind. And it's interesting when you invest in your business, especially in a mastermind, how much you grow, not only in your business, but expand your network as well. So she is one of my early coaches when it came to figuring out this whole social media thing and how to show up online and how to actually build a business online. She has been super instrumental to my growth. And one of the first people that said, I need to really consider doing a podcast. And so if you're listening to this and you're enjoying our show, you probably want to thank this woman that you're about to hear, which is Nancy Evans. And she is the founder of BYOB, an agency that works with personal brands, coaches, and professionals, helping them get organized when it comes to content creation, using social media, and helps them repurpose their content. She is also the podcast host of Entrepreneur Rescue Mission. So welcome to the show, Nancy Evans.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm actually so excited to be here, and I am loving your podcast so far. So good job.
It wouldn't be here without you. So tell all the audience, like, who is Nancy? How did you get to doing what you do today?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's been a while since I've kind of done that backtrack, but I had kind of a little bumpy road into my journey of becoming an entrepreneur, but I wouldn't have it any other way, right? It's like kind of one of those things where you can't really see the path, without looking backwards. Kind of, you got to go through it first. And, my background's in leadership. I worked actually for multiple Fortune 50 and 500 companies. I led teams. I did lots of trainings around organizational effectiveness, things like that. And I did that for over 10 years after I graduated college. And what happened, which kind of set me on my entrepreneurial path, was I had a lot of people who were close to me actually pass away. One of the ones that really hit me the hardest was my dad. He actually passed away suddenly in a motorcycle accident, and getting that call and, having to go through that pretty much rocked my world. Kind of to put it lightly, it's like I lost my North Star. I kind of lost my way. And so, being in that corporate role and being that leader, it just showing up every day became exhausting. It became, the drive into work, was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It just wasn't filling me up. And, time was now, not promised. It's like, tomorrow, is not guaranteed. So, I really started to think about what I was doing, and I really wanted to live a happier life. I wanted to live a life of freedom and joy, and I wanted to do the things I wanted to do. I mean, quite honestly, it was funny because I had like this epiphany. I ended up having like one day off, right? My schedule was crazy, but I was on the beach and I read, did you ever read the book 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss?
By Tim Ferriss. Mm-hmm.
And I read the book, it was just like kind of like, one of those books at the time. And I read the one page where he said, what are you afraid of? Worst case scenario, people lose their jobs all the time. What are you worried about? You'll figure it out. And I don't know what, in that really just set me off, but it was like something just clicked. And I was like, you know what, here I am worrying about I've got this job, it's high paying, I've got a 401k, I've got all these things. And I feel like I'm shackled to this job. Like I have to stay in this job and I'm going to do it the rest of my life just so I can get that, that retirement money and that pension and all those things. And I realized I'm like, if I didn't have to do this every day, I could do something else. And I just totally was like, you know what? All right, that's it. So I just made up my mind. It was like the strangest thing. I went into work and I put in my 2 weeks, which again, that sounds really crazy, but I had no plan. I had no business. I just hit my limit. I mean, I actually, at the time I found out that I had hypothyroidism, so I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease, because I burnt myself out. I just really ran myself, kind of in the ground. And, fast forward, actually last year, I was diagnosed with renal cancer, which I am full-heartedly, believe that it was some of that stress, right? That I just had every day. And so here I am, put in my 2 weeks, quit my job. And I just, started digging in, right? That entire month in between, I ended up actually doing a ton of research on how to start a business. I went to, my small business administration. I started going to classes in the township. I actually looked into an organization called score.org, and I got a mentor. And I just really started researching as much as possible to find out what business I could build, like right off the bat, and start earning some money. And I came across this Reddit article, and it was by this guy. He was an accountant. And the Reddit article was like, build a business that you can achieve amazing work-life balance. And I'm like, what? What is this? That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I looked at it, and it was about this accountant who had actually built a $1 million remotely run residential house cleaning business. And it sounds kind of crazy, so wild, what? But it was basically this guy who said, I set up this program, created this software. What you got to do is basically set it up. You start booking clients, you hire the team. Here's what you do. So I started following his blog, and I ended up going ahead and starting a remotely run house cleaning business. And I built that business right from the ground up to over 6 figures a year. And, it was something that I had a lot of, I had to make it work. So I can't, for everybody out there who's like, oh yeah, cool, just go start a business, whatever. Boots on the ground, getting things done, busting my butt, making, obviously getting first clients and so on and so forth, and building a business from there. But after growing that, it was the most rewarding thing, I probably have ever done. And so that was my first kind of step into the world of entrepreneurship. And around the time, it was probably my 3rd year in with my house cleaning business, I actually met my husband. So for those of you who listen and you've listened to previous episodes, Scott Aaron, so he is the LinkedIn, guru. He is my husband. We met each other, and honestly, it was so refreshing to actually meet someone. And I was single at the time. So I forgot to mention part of that whole, quitting my job. I also ended, a 5-year-long relationship as well. So I closed the chapter on many things that year. But I met my husband, and he had just gotten into really building out his personal brand, and he was on a mission to really kind of grow what it is that he was doing with LinkedIn. And he didn't have a book, he didn't have a course, he didn't have some of those basic things that most people have, because he was so new. He was just coaching people one-on-one. So I, with my background in marketing, so I did graduate from college with a degree in marketing, and I even took one of those assessments, what should you do? And it was marketing is your jam. So I ended up really getting the bug. I'm like, oh man, if I'm going to dive in, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do the Nancy thing. I'm going to knowledge cram and pretty much earn my PhD and whatever it is, with online marketing and all that kind of good stuff. So I ended up spending 4+ years really learning, immersing myself, getting certified in the most random things like Facebook ads, and, was building websites at one point, and really, again, knowledge cramming, but being strategic about it, right? It was all the things that we needed to do in our business. So every mastermind we joined, every workshop we joined, everything that we participated in, it was always to better our business and kind of learn what the people, the ones that are really successful, what they were doing. And on top of that, I was just I want to know more. I want my hands in there. I want to see behind the scenes. So I ended up actually for a little over a year, I worked behind the scenes at a marketing agency that worked with high-level coaches. Talk about the best, they were paying me to learn, some of those amazing things. But I actually got to, see behind the scenes of a lot of really cool coaches. People obviously I can't mention because, I say.
And some of them are extremely famous in the online space.
Yeah. And I was going to say, even one of them actually was really cool. I helped her do her TED talk. I even helped her with her slides, but she was a speaking coach for stars, movie stars, literally wrote Oscar speeches and helped, politicians, things like that. I worked with a top spiritual coach, which, had this insane program. Anyway, moral of the story is, with my role, kind of behind the scenes with all those peeps and, working with Scott and everything, I just realized that like so many of them were all struggling with the same thing. And I started to realize it. And I'm like, man, where is the solution? Like, where's the marketing agency for personal brands, right? There were so many marketing agencies that worked with companies and kind of had that like plug in, like one size fits all strategy. But personal brands are very different. Many times, like it requires the person or coach to show up authentically as themselves, right? So it's not just the marketing agency creating stuff and pushing it out there. So that left a lot of these coaches and people kind of going, well, I know I should probably get out there on video, or I should probably show up on a podcast or, something, but I'm not really sure what to do or what to talk about or where to go. And so it was like light bulbs, kind of went off in my head. And I'm like, Scott, all these people, like I can see all behind the scenes of their businesses, but they don't know that they're all having the same problem. Right. So it took me being able to really see it from the outside and from the inside, really, and be able to see, that they were all struggling with the same thing. So I said, you know what? I said, one of my core values, something that I'm really big on is, I really want people to live lives, true to themselves. Like I want people to be the most authentic versions of themselves. I think we're all special in our own way. And I think we all have something magical, right, to offer other people. And I think a lot of these coaches who are really drawn to the coaching industry really have, special things. And so my goal is how can I help you get it out there? So that you're not the best kept secret and you're not staying hidden, but how can you actually create a strategy and, get yourself out there? And, I started my agency, BYOB Agency, which stands for Build Your Online Brand. And, it has formed, it's kind of molded and shaped, and changed, along the way. But, we primarily focus on helping people to repurpose content. Right. So it's content that you are creating, that you are doing. Of course, we're kind of helping to coach you through it and coming up with topics and ideas and all kinds of cool stuff. But you are actually the one who is the thought leader. You're the one who is actually sharing your expertise. And we're just taking it, and kind of running with it, helping to repurpose graphics and things like that, and then posting it for you. Right. So we make it easy. So yeah, there was a lot.
There is a lot in that. And at the end of it, right, you get people to show up authentically, really build their personal brand. And we know how important that is. So what would you say some of the key things, if somebody was looking at their brand today, what are some of the key things that they could do to shift or to even upgrade their personal brand and really stand out? Like, what do you think are some of the key factors to that?
Yeah. I mean, well, even just what you said, like think about what makes you different, right? I think a lot of people, right, will go on and we'll start building our personal brand, which means pretty much like building your little online reputation, right? It's what people say about you, what people think whenever they arrive at your stuff. So, think backwards, right? Like, how do you want people to feel? How do you want people to engage with you? What is the next step you want to take people on? So just simply answering some of those basic questions, like, who are you? Who do you help? What do you do? Can really just be as simple as that. And, I tell people all the time, like, do a check every once in a while, right? Like as your business grows and as you, start to help people and stuff like that, do like a little recalibration, like go back and look at all your social media and look at it from the standpoint of someone who is on the outside, right? Not as yourself, put yourself in your audience's shoes. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Are you still getting it out there in the right way? Are people very clear on what it is that you do? I mean, because that's the other thing. Like I can't tell you how many people like I've met and I'm like, all right, well, let's go check out and see what you got going on. And I'm like, if I didn't know you and you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know what you do. Like, I look at their social media and stuff and, so there was a person who this was, years ago, for example, and I always love to work with people and then refer them out. And, I love building that great referral network. Well, there was a person who was actually part of a program I was in. And, she said, I do PR and I, do all this stuff. I'm like, awesome. Well, can I actually check out, your website or whatever? And they were like, oh, well, I don't have a website. So I'm like, well, what's your social media? So I went to their social media and it was all like booty pics and pictures of like them in bathing suits and things like, and I'm like, this isn't P like what? So it was confusing. So again, like as simple as it sounds, it didn't match. And it's no one that I would like refer, right? I'm not going to have somebody go there and go, oh my gosh, like this person's amazing. Cause like, it doesn't sell very well.
It doesn't build your authority or credibility. Right.
Correct. Yeah. So, and it's funny. So actually on my podcast, I ended up switching recently, right? So my podcast is Entrepreneur Rescue Mission. And what we do is I actually teach you how to build out step by step your personal brand. It starts with who you are, right? And I honestly take the approach where let's get deep, right? If you're building out your personal brand, it's not just about your business anymore, right? It's about you and who you are and your vision and your core values and all those good things. Because I feel like the more that you dig into those things, it really does more than just build your business. It really creates like everything. It helps you get in that flow and make you feel better about like everything that you're doing. So anyway, that's what I walk people through. But I just started in my hot seat interviews, interviewing coaches, and I ask them specific questions that I actually have in my book, that'll eventually be out like a few months from now. But the questions are, they're like, who you are, what do you do? Like, what is your, what are your core values? What is important to you? But I actually do this with people live, on the actual podcast, because I think one, it's important. Well, one, I want to make sure they have clarity, right? So kind of is like, all right, let me guide you, make sure we're like completely good here. And then two, it also gives them a chance to actually share it with my audience. So then my audience now knows, okay, that's like an example of someone who's super clear. And this is what it looks like. And, maybe it even inspires, other people to, either one, work with that coach or do something similar. So it kind of like serves a couple different things. But, going back to your original question, I just think, asking those simple questions and getting clear on who you are is part of that process to really brand yourself.
So as we think about personal brand, there's so many things that you had said, and there's so many different platforms. And it's one thing to nail down your personal brand and to tweak it as you're growing your business because it adjusts as you grow. But there are so many platforms that do you grow your personal brand individually? Do you focus on one? What's the platform that I'm sure some of the audience are thinking about? Like, this takes a lot of time. So how do I actually know which one to pick? And then we'll talk about repurposing after.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. And I actually I love answering this one. And I love when I'm coaching people to help them with this, because it's usually like giving them permission. It's like, you have my permission to only focus, on this one. Right. So my big thing whenever it comes to that question, which is one, what platform should I be showing up on, which one, and how many should I be doing? And, all those good things. My first question is, where are your people? Right. You're not going to go on Snapchat, if you're targeting, people who are nearing retirement and, looking to, maybe build their own online business, right? You're not going to go there. You want to go to a platform that makes sense for what it is that you're doing. Okay. I actually work with a lot of health insurance brokers, totally random, but it's a market and a niche that I tapped into and I love them so much. And I know so much about the marketing or the health insurance industry now. But my whole point is right, the perfect place to find them and the perfect place for them to be is LinkedIn, right? So you got to think about where your people are and where makes the most sense. The second thing I'll ask is, where are you actually generating leads? Okay. And I want to give you this example because I have heard, and I hear this all the time, I've heard multiple people say, oh my gosh, I'm like TikTok famous. We're talking oh my God, I got 1 million, followers, I got 1 million likes, whatever. I talked to one person who literally has, yes, they have a lot of followers. I asked her, I said, how many, things have you actually sold, your products or whatever? And she was like, none. None. And then we talked to somebody else and I'm like, all right, you're doing how many TikToks or how many reels a week? How much business are you actually generating and how much energy and time are you exerting? And they're just like, ugh. So yes, it might grow your audience. It might grow people, followers, things like that. But my question to you is, are those followers converting to actual sales and leads? Okay. So if they are, keep doing it, right? Keep doing it. If that's your platform, stay focused on that platform and do all the things, right? So if you find out that, you know what, LinkedIn or let's say Instagram, right? Instagram, you have a health business, right? And then you find out that all these followers are following you, you're growing it with reels, you're actually able to start selling. Now you're like rocking and rolling, you're filling your, registrations for your workshop, you're running ads, like everything's feeling really good. My recommendation is pour gas on that fire. Do all the things, right? So if you aren't currently doing reels, do reels. If you're not doing stories every day consistently, add stories to the mix. If you're not posting daily consistently, if you're not posting video, so I would say just like do it to the max if you're actually seeing traction. Now, what I don't recommend you do is try everything all at once, exhausting, right? Like creating content for this and that and blah, 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 and like literally burning yourself out, trying to do all the things on all the different platforms. Okay. That's exhausting. And it's tough just to show up right on one consistently. So that's my number one thing is literally pick the platform that makes the most sense. Where are your people and show up on that. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying don't post on all the others. I'm just saying you don't have to do all the things, right? So I do have a lot of clients, just for example. So, even some of these health insurance brokers that I mentioned, they're mainly on LinkedIn, but they also post, right? We also post for them on YouTube. We also post on Instagram and we also post on Facebook, and we do that through our posting platform, which is called BYOB Social. And we're able to go ahead and schedule the content out across the different platforms. Of course, it's made leading with LinkedIn, right? We're actually leading with that educational leadership content, that's really going to appeal to the peeps there, but we're going to also share it across the others, right? And still get it out there.
So that's a perfect segue to like repurposing. Yes. And you're already making content and a lot of our entrepreneurs are scaling their business. So they've made their content. Like what should be the flow or what would be the easiest way to repurpose some of the content that they've created?
Yeah. See, this is such a great question because my husband actually tonight is day one. When you guys are listening to this, obviously it'll be already passed, but we're actually getting ready to do day one of our content repurposing workshop. So this is like fresh in my mind. What I would suggest is, and it always, content is one of those things where people, if they don't have a handle on it and they don't understand it and they don't have kind of a routine, it scares the heck out of people. It either scares the heck out of people or it overwhelms them, right? Mm-hmm. So I hear this with people all the time. And so I like to take things that are pretty complex and break them down into as simple as possible. And I also like to work smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. So, whenever it comes to repurposing, kind of my workflow and kind of what we teach is number one, you've got to get clear on the topics that you talk about, right? And we call them content buckets, right? Many people call them, different things, content pillars, content buckets, zones of genius, whatever it is, right? That applies to your business. So for example, if you're a business coach, you're going to talk about business. You're going to talk about, you might talk about entrepreneurship in general. Maybe you talk about metrics, maybe some aspects, right? You want to showcase what it is that you do, right? As a business coach. I always say to people too, remember to add a business bucket, right? To talk about your own darn business. Because I think a lot of people, right, kind of go the other way. So anyway, pick out your content buckets, right? That's step number one. Now, have 3 to 5. You don't even need more than 3 if you don't want to. But for me, right, I talk a lot about personal branding. I talk about mindset. I love mindset, right? Because every entrepreneur that I work with, right, you think about my audience struggles with mindset in some way, mm-hmm. right? And then I talk about social media, like the tips and the updates and things that are going on. Of course, my husband, right, he's a LinkedIn expert. So, he always talks about LinkedIn. He talks about content creation. He talks about actually, life. He does a lot of mindset stuff and inspirational as well and shares a lot of behind the scenes. So, it's really a good idea. Number one is to just get clear on those topics that you rotate. Okay. Now, my second step is, and I actually have a free download, so you guys can check this out on our website. So if you go to thetimetogrowth.com, so obviously www.thetimetogrowth.com. It's actually the pop-up on the page. And if you scroll down, you can see it as well. But I have a free little social media content planning calendar. And so what I do is, so now that you've come up with those topics, right? You've come up with your content buckets. You're going to break it down now and think of different topic ideas underneath those things, right? So I mentioned for me, it could be social media tips, right? So it could be Instagram tips. It could be Facebook tips. It could be all different things. Think about your audience. What are the pain points? What are the questions you keep hearing? How do I grow my audience? How do I do, build my brand? How do I do this? How do I do that? Think about all those questions that you can answer. Okay. And, just start getting some topics. The second thing, or actually the third thing, I guess you would do is start to map out those actual topics into your calendar. So what I do is, I'll look at something like July, for example. Okay. And, I'm actually getting ready to start really digging into a lot of mindset stuff. I just ending kind of I did a whole thing on personal branding, and now I'm getting into mindset. So, in the month of July, I've picked out different topics. So the first week is actually, about analysis paralysis, right? Entrepreneurs who are very stuck, and they're like knowledge cramming and whatever. So that's my theme for week, 1. Week 2 is all about, what we call shiny object syndrome. I'm like, what is that again? Yeah. Shiny object syndrome, right? The newest, best, software and jumping from thing to thing, right? So it's like, I start talking about those different things. My whole point is you're taking that and you're making it the theme of the week. Okay. Now we get to the repurposing part of it. Here's where the fun comes in. So now that you've done the work, right? And that's the hardest thing for most people, is to actually sit down with that protected time and to go through and actually map all that out. But once you do, you literally can map out your whole year. It's really awesome. So now that that's all mapped out, I know what my topics are. Now it's time for you to start with your leading long form piece of content. Okay. And my husband and I, we highly recommend, hands down, recommend leading with video. Okay. And the reason why, I'm sure right? And you're shaking your head. Video is the best way. Video continues to be king and queen online, right? It literally is, the best way for people to build know, like, and trust with you. It's the best way for you to show up authentically. It's the best way to showcase your expertise, and really set yourself apart as that expert. So what we recommend, and this is actually what we do through our agency, and I'm telling you exactly what we do because it's really, really simple, is we ask our clients for a 2 to 5 minute video each week. That's it. Okay. So shoot a 2 to 5 minute video. Okay. And I'm talking about a simple video. We're talking intro. Hey, this is Nancy. This week, we're going to talk about like the 3 tips, how to stay focused, and then you do your 3 little tips and then you wrap it up, do a little call to action, and you're done. Do a video, right? Each week based on that topic. And then what you're going to do, and here's my breakout, right? So from that video, okay, now you've got that little tip, what we call that little educational video. Again, showcasing you as the expertise or as the expert. And you can now take it and break it up to different pieces of content. Now, if I was focusing on LinkedIn, for example, because I would do the repurposing a little different based on what platform I'm focusing on. If I was leading with LinkedIn and that was my go-to place to generate leads, I would post a video on Monday. I would post an article, right? And that article could be a transcription, right, of that video. I would post that on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I would do, either a quote from the content, or you can post a poll, right? Something nice and simple related to that topic. It could be, hey, do you struggle with boop, 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 or what's your biggest hang up when it comes to content, right? And then that way, again, you build that engagement, you get yourself out there as the expert, and it's not a million posts, right? But you're showing up. Now you can add additional to that. You could do an educational infograph, to fill in one of the, spaces there. And then you could do a promotional post. But that's what I would do for LinkedIn. Now for Instagram and Facebook, I like to kind of theme out my days a little bit. So Mondays, I do motivational Monday. So it's always a quote, right? So that's the quote. It's kicking off the week. It's related to the topic. So if I did a whole week on shiny object syndrome, better believe, that quote has something to do with it. Then I post my video right on Tuesday. So of course I want to post that video and, it'll have a cute little thumbnail and everything. On Wednesday, it's a work it Wednesday. And I'm sorry, Tuesday is training and tips Tuesday, just for, buzzword. Yeah. And so Wednesday is a work it Wednesday, which is promote yourself. It's whatever is in that business bucket, so if you are behind the scenes creating a course for people and you are beyond excited, shoot a little selfie of you at your computer and share that. If it's, you've got a workshop coming up, do a promotional post and tell people where to go to, sign up for it. That's your one post a week that you can really push it. Thursday, I usually do an engaging post. So I don't have anything like cute for that, but it's like Thursday question. So it's usually a question to engage your audience. So you can do polls on Instagram, you can do polls on Facebook, but that's when you want to kind of engage with your audience and ask them questions. And then on Friday, I just do like feel good. So, if you're having a great week, again, maybe you're pre-scheduling stuff. So just let people know what you've got going on. I love to share, and Scott's really good at it too. Just some behind the scenes, like, we have 2 beautiful koi ponds in our backyard. And that alone, people just love, to see certain things and like to see behind the scenes of what life is like. And so it's important to really show the real you. And again, I'm all about showing up authentic. So, feature yourself, share what you got going on, have some fun with it.
I love how Nancy just always breaks things down in such an organized fashion. And you said something earlier, like work smarter, not harder. So what are some of the tools that you would recommend that people should look into when they're building their brand online or when they're repurposing into these like different things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'll give you actually some like solid gold juicy nuggets. All right. So the first, I would definitely recommend having a project management tool. Okay. And the one that I actually prefer to use, so this is total behind the scenes, I use Trello. Okay. And so Trello is just Trello. It's free. It's actually one of the project management tools out there on the market that is like, it has the most free, I've never paid for it. And I literally use it for all my clients. So I've got a million boards in there. But anyway, Trello is a very simple, very visual project management tool. Okay. And so guys, I just told you before, right? I work for a marketing agency. I work behind the scenes with a lot of people and I got to see a lot of project management tools and I know what works. And I honestly wanted to pick one that I could show clients and they could learn very quickly. So we're talking about like lowering, the learning curve and making something that's very visual. You have the ability to actually create a really plug and play process. So my recommendation would be to go to Trello, sign up for it. And then whenever you build out your board, which could be your content creation, build it out every week for the rest of the year. Okay. Literally just go in and write July week 1, July week 2, July week 3.
Nancy definitely taught us that.
And it's like, build it out because then, right, you start to plan launches and you start to plan different things where you can actually get it out of your brain and you can start to plug it into your little, your board. And then as you do the designs and graphics and whether you have a team or not, right, you can start to actually drag and drop these things so you can start getting ahead and really planning things out. And just like I said, it could be as simple as starting with just shooting those videos, right, that are going to be that leading content. And the way that I use Trello is I also attach my storage, my preference for like a storage, God, I don't even know, storage program. So there's 2 choices, right? Usually people use Dropbox or they use Google Drive. I love Google Drive, right? It's so simple. It's easy to use with my team. And of course, when you're downloading a lot of videos, you gotta have a place to store them all. You don't want to take up all the storage on your computer. So that's the second little tool is you definitely want to have, Google Drive. And I do a folder for my videos. So that folder link goes at the top of, each of those weeks because that's going to be the leading piece of content. So the other tool that I recommend, obviously, once you get all this content created and you're like, all right, I'm ready to go, is a scheduling platform, right? A social media content scheduling platform. Now, little sneak behind the scenes, I already told you, right? We have our own, which is called BYOB Social. You can learn more about it at thetimetogrowcom. It's on there. But the reason why it came to this, the reason why we have our own posting platform is because when I first started my agency, we did a ton of stuff for clients, even more than we do now. And I was so stressed. I was so frustrated. Patchwork, quilting, all these different programs. For example, right? If somebody wanted us to post on Pinterest, we had to get Tailwind. And then if somebody wanted us to post, on Instagram, we had to get this and we had to get that. And it was all these different programs. And none did exactly what I needed them to do. The other thing too is like, a program like Hootsuite, I would do that and then they wouldn't even notify me when things wouldn't post. So here I am and I'm like, what the heck, for clients and things like that. And it's like, that's not the kind of stress I want to have in my life. So moral of the story, we actually met with the developers. Yes, this is what they do. We got in early. And, the thing is like we meet on a monthly basis. And we like really think about, well, what should we add? What should we do differently? How can we, make this better? And so it's like such a fun process that we're able to work with the developers in that way. But number two, it's literally how we do all the posting for all of our clients. So you're just getting access to what we do for our clients. But it is like my favorite thing in the world. And it was one of those things where like I had that epiphany, like I went in the kitchen and I'm like, there needs to be a better way. And we figured it out. So
oh my gosh, Nancy,
yes.
You dropped so many nuggets and so many bombs. Where can people connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can connect with me on Instagram at the BYOB Agency. You can connect with me there. You can also visit, like I said, www.thetimetogrow.com. That's our website. You can kind of check out all the different things that we've got going on. I usually showcase like some of the workshops. And we actually have a new program coming out soon. So stay tuned. And my book. So I'm actually doing a book. It's called, hold on, let me get this right. The Personal Branding Book for Social Media for Coaches and Consultants. I think I got that right, but that is coming out soon as well. So
I love it. And as we wrap up, we're going to put all that in the show notes. So as we wrap up, there's always one question I ask all of our guests that come on the show is, what does Nancy do to play bigger in business and in life?
Oh my gosh. It's just like every single day, like I'm a creature of like, I love to learn, but my biggest tip is know when to shut it off and just take action. Right. So that's my biggest thing is, right. There's got to be a time we got to turn off that little water main and we got to take action. So every single day, take action and don't lose sight of your goals.
You're definitely an action taker, and it's why I love to have you in my circle. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you. I value you, and I cannot wait to keep supporting you and playing bigger with you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.